Auburn basketball manhandles Alabama for road win. Score highlights. For the first time in 3 years, Auburn basketball won at Coleman Coliseum. And believe it or not, it did so this time around by beating Alabama where it's best. In the SEC's first-ever face-off between number 1 and number 2, the Tigers shot the lights out. They had 6 scorers in double figures. They connected on 12 three-point attempts and shot 40% from that mark. Subsequently, they won. In fact, they never trailed, beating the Crimson Tide 94-85 in the biggest game of college basketball this season. Johnny Broome had another double-double for Auburn, 23-2, 11-1 second, scoring a game-high 19 points and securing a game-high 14 rebounds, as well as dishing 6 assists. But the Tigers' offense existed far beyond him. 5 other Tigers reached the double-digit mark against number 2 Alabama, 21-4, 10-2, with Denver Jones 16 points, Chad Baker-Mazara 15, Miles Kelly 15, Chaney Johnson 14, and Tahad Pettiford 13, all following Broome's suit. While Alabama pieced together some impressive runs, its offense never found much of a rhythm. It matched a season low in three-pointers made with 5, and its 20% from distance matched the second-worst effort of the year. Here's a look at how Auburn claimed the number 1 crown outright. Auburn basketball versus Alabama. Live score updates. This section will be updated when the game begins. Auburn basketball still leads Alabama. Can it hold on? 3:53, 2H. Miles Kelly is heading to the line for a 1-and-1 opportunity after securing a rebound on a missed Alabama shot attempt. He's got a chance to put the Tigers back up 8 points, but with the way this has gone, it'll be hard to count the Crimson Tide out until the final seconds. That's with Auburn's foul situation in mind. Dylan Cardwell has fouled out. Chad Baker-Mazara has 4. Johnny Broome has 3. If the Tigers can stay out of foul trouble, it's looking up. It's 79-73 Auburn. Auburn basketball and Alabama trading proper blows. 6:31, 2H. This is what number 1 versus number 2 basketball is all about. Alabama comes back to tie it up with a putback jam from Grant Nelson. Tahad Pettiford connects from distance on the next Auburn possession. Then Chris Youngblood matches it on the other end. Then Chad Baker-Mazara does the same for Auburn after that. This is basketball, but it feels like a boxing match between the world's best. Blows are being traded and responses are being had. It's 71-68 Auburn, but you should strap in. This is far from over. Auburn basketball takes timeout after double-digit Alabama run. 9:27 2H, up 14 points 5 minutes ago. Auburn's lead is down to a possession after a 10-0 run from Alabama, with Tahad Pettiford taking a timeout for the Tigers. Auburn finds itself up against a wall with foul trouble. Johnny Broome picked up his third a couple Alabama possessions prior, and it put the Crimson Tide in the bonus the rest of the way. Chad Baker-Mazara also has 3 fouls and Dylan Cardwell has 4. Miles Kelly, Chaney Johnson, Chris Moore, and Denver Jones each have 2. It's 63-60 Auburn. Auburn basketball still clicking on offense. 11:55, 2H. The Tigers are only leading the second half by a couple of points, but they've made 5 of their past 7 shots. They're shooting 43% from the field and 36% from distance. Alabama is still struggling to string it together at 36% from the field and 11% from distance. Johnny Broome, Denver Jones, and Chaney Johnson have combined for 41 of Auburn's 60 points. It's 60-49 Auburn. Auburn basketball taking control over Alabama. 15:45, 2H. There's still 15-plus minutes of basketball left. Anyone would be a fool to say that one team or the other is near a win right now. But you could at least try to make the case for Auburn. It's leading the second half 13-8, and Denver Jones has caught fire, scoring 9 of his 12 points on second-half triples. Johnny Broome also has another double-double on his hands with 14 points and 10 rebounds. He's also got 5 assists. It's 55-41 Auburn. Half. Number 1, Auburn 42. Number 2, Alabama 33. Two of the nation's best offenses find themselves in a rock fight through 20 minutes. While Auburn got off to another hot start, its offense cooled off, particularly from distance. Alabama, which usually thrives from distance, connected on just 2 of its 15 three-point attempts in the first half. Chaney Johnson stormed back to match Johnny Broome with a game-high 12 points, coinciding with a 7-0 run from the Tigers to close the half. Broome has also grabbed 8 rebounds. Chad Baker-Mazara has also scored 8 points for the Tigers. Grant Nelson has a team-high 6 points for Alabama. Auburn basketball facing first-half foul troubles at Alabama. 4 o'clock, 1H. Chaney Johnson was just whistled for his first foul of the contest while going for a defensive rebound, but it was the Tigers' 10th foul of the game, and Chad Baker-Mazara, Dylan Cardwell, and Miles Kelly are each playing with 2 apiece. Alabama has been whistled 6 times, but both Aiden Holloway and Mark Sears have 2. It's 35-29 Auburn. Alabama finally finds a 3, cutting into Auburn basketball's lead. 7:29 1H. Alabama began the game missing its first 9 three-point attempts, but former Tiger Aiden Holloway got the Crimson Tide's first three-point make of the day off a second offensive rebound from Cliff Omoruyi on the possession. The Tide have made another triple since, and they're on an 8-0 run. It's 26-25 Auburn. Auburn basketball still leading despite Alabama run. 10:51 1H. The Crimson Tide went on a 9-0 run to trim Auburn's lead to a point, but Chad Baker-Mazara responded with a 6-0 run of his own to get the Tigers more cushion. Now, the Tigers are on a 10-4 run of their run. Johnny Broome has looked impressive with a game-high 10 points. Baker-Mazara and Chaney Johnson have combined for 11 points. It's 24-17 Auburn. Auburn basketball finding early offense for big lead over Alabama. 15:42 1H. 12 of Auburn's first 14 points have come from distance, with Miles Kelly, Johnny Broome, and Chaney Johnson all connecting on triples. Broome has a game-high 8 points, while the Crimson Tide haven't found much offense. It's 3 of 10 from the field, and it hasn't made one of its 4 three-point attempts. It's 14-8 Auburn. Auburn basketball versus Alabama. Starting lineups. Auburn, G. Denver Jones, G. Miles Kelly, F. Chris Moore, F/C. Johnny Broome, C. Dylan Cardwell. Alabama, G. Mark Sears, G. Chris Youngblood, F. Jaron Stevenson, F. Grant Nelson, C. Cliff Omoruyi. Auburn basketball versus Alabama start time. Start time, 3 p.m. Central Time. Date, Saturday, February 15th. Location, Coleman Coliseum, Tuscaloosa. What channel is Auburn basketball versus Alabama on today? ESPN's A-Team will be on the call, with Dan Schulman on play-by-play and Jay Bilas on color. Jess Sims will serve as the game's sideline report. Listen live. Auburn basketball versus Alabama on the radio. Saturday's game will be broadcast live on WLWI-FM 92.3 in Montgomery and WFM 94.3 in Auburn. The radio call can also be streamed online. Here are the announcers. Play-by-play, Andy Burcham. Analysis/color, Randall Dickey. Prediction for Auburn basketball versus Alabama. Number 2, Alabama 98. Number 1, Auburn 95. Auburn is coming into this a 1.5-point favorite in Tuscaloosa against a top 2 opponent. In a way, that signifies just how good the Tigers have been this season. But they're 1-4 in their past 5 trips to Coleman Coliseum, and the Crimson Tide will be looking for their 8th consecutive win. An Auburn victory isn't out of the question. One would be mad to assume it is. But it's difficult to feel the edge going into this one doesn't go to Alabama. And if it can force the Tigers into letting it play its brand of fast-paced, three-point-filled basketball, a win feels likely. Injury updates. Auburn basketball versus Alabama. It looked like Alabama would be the only squad dealing with injuries Saturday, but there's a chance Auburn is without one of its best players against the Crimson Tide. Chad Baker-Mazara apparently re-aggravated an upper body injury Friday. ESPN's Pete DeMel reported. He was listed as probable on the SEC's Friday availability report, but ESPN listed him as questionable. On Saturday, the SEC availability report updated Baker-Mazara to a game-time decision. Alabama will have two players, Houston Millett and Latrell Wrightsell Jr., sidelined by way of season-ending injuries, and it could have a third player out. Darian Reed was listed as questionable before Alabama's win over Texas and did not play. He's played in just 17 of Alabama's 24 games this season, and the Texas win was his second straight missed appearance. On Friday, Nate Oates said Reed was likely to be a game-time decision against Auburn. The freshman's been a decent contributor off the bench, averaging 7.2 points in 16.9 minutes. Auburn basketball schedule for 2024-25 season.